Hello everyone and welcome back to your favourite Formula 1 show. Yes, Knowing Wheel returns episode 143, I believe. And of course that means we're just 40 away from the greatest ever episode. I'm joined by Jamie183. How are we doing, my guy?
I've been downgraded.
You have, you're
numbers.
40 points lower.
I'm good. Was able to actually watch this race live, which is unreal. Don't get that very often.
That is a shock.
It was a treat because it was it wasn't a great race, really, was it? But you know what? We're here to talk about it anyway.
Yes, yeah, exactly. Of course, we come back, whether it's good or for bad, we're always back with another Knowing Wheel episode. Of course, this weekend from Mexico City. Of course, pretty much everyone there is a fan of Checo. And obviously, if you didn't watch the Grand Prix, if this is for some reason the only way you get F1 news, and I'm slightly concerned. But of course we'll talk about how it wasn't quite the weekend Sergio would have wanted. Although that being said, how many times have we said that this season? But before we got into the weekend though, of course, Nico Hülkenberg, celebrating his 200th Grand Prix, copied Lando Norris from last weekend, didn't he? And just put a load of stickers on his helmet.
Looked quite cool though, I thought.
Yeah, it looked pretty cool.
It was nice, and they did a nice video that I enjoyed very much on the 41 YouTube channel, with him and Will Buxton going through his career, which is very wholesome. And
a lot of near misses.
I've got to savour all I can get because he's only got about 2 years left. So
you reckon he's got 2 years? Do you?
Well, he's got at least 1 year, hasn't he? I reckon he'll blag his way to staying at Haas another year or something.
Fair enough. And of course the other big one, which we kind of had speculation, we spoke about it a couple of weeks ago, was of course, the rumour that Sergio Perez could have announced retirement at the end of the season. But I think we'll discuss a bit more of that a little bit later on in the show. But of course, Mexico, we always say this, don't we, Jamie? It's kind of felt like an interesting track. Just because of how ridiculously high up it is. Obviously, 3 times higher than any other Formula 1 Grand Prix venue, 2,200 metres above sea level, which always just means we're basically talking about engine cooling and the fact that drivers can run a load of aero around here when it's really fast.
And they also can't follow each other, which is great. So,
no.
Yeah, you saw the cars with huge openings around the engine and the side pods just to try and get the cooling done, and pulling out of the slipstream and stuff on the straights. I think is a good track if they took it and put it in like Northampton. So yeah, it's a shame that's where it is in Mexico City, but it's obviously a very high up place. And to be honest, yeah, it's never the most entertaining race just because the cars genuinely, you probably needed at least 1.5 seconds, 2 seconds delta to pass somebody. Which, with the field as close as it is, you don't really get that unless it's a Red Bull, unless it's Verstappen against somebody.
Yeah, it is. It certainly is. We've said this so many years now. I think I remember us talking about this last year, where we were kind of there. Like we didn't quite know the physics behind it, but we were both hoping that Mexico would certainly be turned into a banger because of the ground effect last year, and it still hasn't really happened, to be completely honest, which is a shame. But, I mean, we've said this so many times, haven't we? Once Checo's gone, it's not going to be on the calendar anymore, is it?
No. Same with Spain, to be honest. But, yeah.
Yeah, Sainz is doing all right. Remember, Alonso left for a couple of years, and we
all the time that
Sainz
is at Ferrari, it's probably safe. But if he drops back to the midfield, Alonso's gone, then maybe.
Well, he'll go to Audi, won't he, is all the talk.
Sainz and Joe, or Sainz and Hulk.
God, you really do clutch at straws, don't you, my friend? That is alarming. But yeah, Friday running, of course, Ferrari, they were kind of apparently running a bit of a gamble. They weren't going to be swapping out an engine on the cars, despite the fact Charles Leclerc was already moaning about vibration. But it was fairly uneventful for the most part. There was nothing really to remember.
First time in a while, it felt like they had 3 practice sessions to actually get setups done.
Well, it is the first time in a month, isn't it?
Yeah.
Since what, Japan?
And we also had the young drivers, didn't we, in FP1, all of them. So, and Ollie Behrman, Brit Ferrari, was the best of the lot in the Alfa Romeo.
We love it.
Yep, he's going to cook next season in F2.
He certainly is, and I'd still love to do a Formula 2 show, but we just simply don't have the time because I feel like we would both wander on about that to no ends, would we?
Yeah, I would just curse half the grid probably. So
Pretty much.
it's probably good for F2 that I don't do that.
For the sake of the drivers, absolutely. But let's jump straight then into qualifying then, Jamie. And drama immediately from Q1, wasn't it? Because Lando Norris missed the cut.
He did, and it was kind of a little bit his own fault and a little bit bad luck. But he only got one one run properly in, which he messed up the middle sector. He got a bit of oversteer at I think must have been around turn 8 or 9 or something like that. And yeah, didn't do a lap, was 3.5 seconds off the pace because he bailed on that one, and then came to the end of the session, and Fernando Alonso did his best Michael Schumacher impression and caused the yellow flag, which meant nobody behind him could improve, and one of those drivers behind him was indeed Lando Norris. And yellow flags were out at turn 3, so that was that really for anyone behind Alonso, because they had to back off obviously through the yellow flags. So yeah, that included Lando Norris, included Esteban Ocon as well, and Logan Sargent didn't even get to do a lap, so he was P20, which is kind of where he lives in qualifying this season. And yeah, Norris P19 in the grid.
I think it's unfair to say Sargent lives in P20. Remember, Lance Stroll is also.
Oh yeah,
Formula
he's had a
One
couple
still.
of last places, hasn't he?
He's had quite a few last places this season, all things considered. But yeah, I mean, Alonso, you don't often see him make a mistake like that, do you? It seemed like quite a lazy spin in the end. I'm not suggesting it was definitely his best Michael Schumacher impression, but does Formula One need to implement the rule where if you cause... does Formula One need to implement the IndyCar rule that if you cause a red flag in qualifying, your best lap time is deleted?
I guess the blurred
or a yellow flag or something like that.
The blurred line you get there is what counts as cause.
If you go off by yourself.
I guess, yeah. Because you think about like Monaco 22, was it? When Perez crashed on his own, didn't he? To get pole, basically.
Yes.
Or to stay ahead of Max, wasn't it? Or something like that. And then Sainz also crashed at like the same time, just 5 seconds later. Like, Sainz gets away with it there because he was like, I don't know, it's all a bit blurred lines then, isn't it? I trust that drivers wouldn't deliberately cause yellow flags unless you are a German driver who races for Mercedes at some point in your career. Yeah, the Monaco 14 was a mistake, to be fair.
Behave.
Yeah.
So I don't think Wolfgang von Trips ever did that, did he?
What a guy. Who knows? Yeah.
So I don't think flags existed when Wolfgang von Trips was racing Formula One, to be fair.
Yeah. Yeah, probably not, to be honest. I don't think Alonso did it on purpose, but it did screw over a bunch of drivers. So.
Well, basically everyone, wasn't it?
Everyone who went out, yeah.
But I mean, yeah, moving on though into Q2, Alex Albon had the pace for Q3, which I don't think we were really expecting from Williams this weekend.
Although he was cooking in practice, wasn't he? He was P2.
He was cooking in practice. But of course, Williams have often gone for, not glory runs necessarily in practice, but have often gone for quick laps in practice and then not quite been able to deliver the same pace. But it did mean Gasly, Hulkenberg, Alonso, Albon and Tsunoda, who had grid penalties, were all out in Q2, because Tsunoda was giving Daniel Ricciardo all of the F1 league racing style slipstreams, wasn't he, around the laps?
Yeah, Ricciardo, he top 4 in the first 2 sessions, I think.
All 3 sessions.
All 3 sessions, actually, in the end, wasn't he? But he was P2 in one of them, thanks to the big toe down the main straight by Tsunoda. So, playing the team game, obviously, we spoke about on Thursday last week, the battle for P7, which has livened up a lot this weekend. So, yeah, AlphaTauri are clearly going for it in the team play, and it paid off. So, yeah, Tsunoda obviously had the engine pen, so couldn't go through to Q3 himself, but Ricciardo certainly did. And yeah, the penalty for Albon was a little bit harsh. I see what he means, because basically his argument was the rule says you got to keep 2 wheels on the track. And in the writing of that rule, they obviously are assuming it's the 2 wheels are on the same side of the car. So you've got to be your right front and your right rear if it's a left-hander. Or a right-hander. You can run out. You know what I mean.
If you do it backwards.
Yeah, so Albon, at turn 2, both his front wheels were over the white lines, but because it's such a shallow corner, both his rear wheels were on the track, if you get what I mean. And then by the time his front wheels had cut the corner, his fronts are back on the track, and his rears are now outside track limits. So at all times, he did have 2 wheels on the track.
Yeah.
But it's a little bit strange, because I used to do that in league racing, and it worked on the F1 game.
Well, we all did it in league racing, didn't we, on the F1 game?
Yeah. So I think Alvin was a little bit unlucky there, because he kind of exploited a loophole in the rules, and the FIA cracked down on it. So, yeah, it was a shame for him, but it was all right for Joe, who got into Q3 for the first time in a little... Wait, he was in Q3 quite recently, wasn't he?
Oh, I thought he made Q3 in Qatar, didn't he, or something?
Yeah, in Kota or Qatar or something. One of those tracks beginning with K or Q.
That is awful. But yeah.
Doesn't begin with K.
Into Q3 we go, though, and Ferrari, all qualifying, looked like they were good through Sector 1 and Sector 2, but were burning up their tyres before the final sector, and then suddenly go and lock out the front row.
Yeah.
Seemingly out of nowhere.
Yeah, first runs, they just turn up and Leclerc's on pole from Sainz, and Verstappen stuck in P3, can't top them. So, yeah, ridiculous stuff from Ferrari. I think they were quite confused at what happened. But regardless, yeah, Leclerc, a bit of a Q3 merchant, really, isn't he? But it worked, and he got the provisional pole. And then for some reason, I don't know if anyone came up with a good explanation, but the track just fell apart in the second runs, and nobody improved at all, really. So
I think, to be honest, it just looked to me like everyone nailed their first run.
Potentially, yeah.
I think that was it. You know, there was no driver there, apart from obviously the Mercs, really, because they'd obviously gone out on an old set. There was no driver there that really looked like there was much time to find after the first run, and, well, no one could they? So it meant Charles Leclerc, how many career poles is it now? 23?
22, 23, isn't it? Something like that.
Madness. Absolute madness. Ferrari front row lockout, though. Is that the first time this season, or did they manage that in Singapore?
Russell was on the front row in Singapore, wasn't he?
So I think that's the first time this season, and they've had a front row lockout. Verstappen, obviously P3. Daniel Ricciardo beat Sergio Perez.
Yes.
Despite being an AlphaTauri.
And no toe in Q3, obviously, because Snowden wasn't there.
And Perez's home Grand Prix.
Yeah, really, really bad news for Perez. With that kind of being the head-to-head, if you want to believe what the rumours are saying anyway. Yeah, not a great look to qualify P5 behind an AlphaTauri. Yeah, I think, to be fair, it's more on Ricciardo being really good.
Well, Ricciardo's always gone well here. AlphaTauri have always gone well here.
What was the gap from Perez to Max? It wasn't huge.
10th and a half. It was not much at all.
That's really good.
Yeah.
So
but
maybe
Ricciardo
did
better.
Maybe it was just Ricciardo. Yeah, woke up on the right side of the bed.
Well, it's the only time... Mexico is the only track other than Monaco he's ever taken a pole position at.
Yeah,
Ricciardo.
3 career poles, isn't it?
Yeah, 2 at Monaco, 1 here. But I'm not saying that Perez is out of a seat, but I have heard he's been in conversations with Zhou Guanyu about some language lessons. Like learning Chinese ready for next year. But yeah, Hamilton, though, lined up in P6 ahead of Piastri, Russell, Bottas and Zhou there. You know, quite Alfa Romeo. I'm not saying that someone called it last week, but someone did tell us they'd be very, very strong around this circuit.
I think I said that, didn't I?
I believe you did, Jamie183.
Well, there you go, double Q3. We don't talk about Sunday.
Well, we do on this show, because we've got the race now to talk about. Jamie, talk me through the start.
The race starts, and you've got Ferrari front row, Verstappen P3, and we've seen in the past P3's been a pretty handy place to start on the clean side of the track with the
Never
slipstream.
Forget Bottas claiming he started P3. No, that was Russia, wasn't it?
That was
Bottas
Russia.
claimed he started P3 on
P3
purpose.
he gave Max a toe to out-qualify him. I think that maybe was true, to be fair, in 2021.
That was not true.
Oh, it's 2020, wasn't it? But yeah, anyway, this is 2023 Mexican Grand Prix, and you have Max Verstappen getting a very good launch straight through the middle of both Ferraris. Sainz is falling out of the picture. Leclerc and Verstappen side by side towards turn 1. Verstappen on the inside, Leclerc on the middle, and coming down the outside, you've got steamrolling his way from 5th on the grid, Sergio Perez, looking like he's got an actual good start for once, going for the lead of the race, and into turn 1, he just loses a bit of sense for a second, and it's game over straight away. Tries to go hero or zero, basically, and ends up as a 0 in the runoff area with no side pod. So yeah, immediately I was, to the people I was watching with, I was like, this is Perez's fault all the ends up, and the replay confirmed that. To be honest, it was Perez turning in to Leclerc, who had Verstappen on his inside and had nowhere to go. So yeah, very similar to what Hamilton did in Qatar. And Hamilton himself, I don't know if you saw the cool-down room.
I did, yeah.
Very funny from Hamilton saying he did a me in Qatar. Yeah, really, really bad from Perez. And that was that for his race and maybe his career. Who knows?
Well, did you see the aerial shot of it down to turn 1?
I would have seen it, but I don't recall.
So he did even worse than Hamilton, because he literally took the racing line. He turned in. Where
really
obviously the tarmac is darker on the racing line. He turned in there into turn 1, despite the fact there were 2 cars.
So he was barely going to lose space
inside.
for Verstappen if Leclerc wasn't there.
No, exactly. It was. I totally get why Perez went for it, but I will never quite understand, of course, because he went so badly wrong as to why he went for it the way he went for it. Because let's be fair, he probably, going into turn 1, went, I'm going to do what Max did in 2021. I'm going to be leading this thing. I'm going to win. Red Bull are going to keep me. Oh, I've taken Leclerc out and I'm now in the air.
Yes, yeah. And I just think, even if, he just got he's under huge pressure, obviously. He's got, his career is in his hands, basically, for the next 4 races before the race. And yeah, he clearly wanted to go big or go home, basically, in his own home race. And
he stayed home.
And yeah, I just think, even if he took the lead, surely he thinks Max will still beat him. I think Max would absolutely still beat him.
You can't as a Formula 1 driver.
Yeah.
You cannot believe if you get to that lead that you're going to lose it.
It was just such a huge roll of the dice at the first corner of 71 laps.
Well, the problem was with it, it was just overcommitted, far too brave, and poorly judged at the end of the day.
Yeah.
And, I mean, obviously all the rumours going into the weekend were, would Sergio Perez announce his retirement? It would not have surprised me if the plan was get a podium and announce it. That's gone. That opportunity's gone.
I doubt that would have happened.
It wouldn't have surprised me. It would not have surprised me. Especially, you see the video Red Bull put out Thursday?
Yeah. It was very much like, we love Checo, let's stop abusing him, basically, wasn't it? It felt very, very out of place. As if it was a driver leaving kind of video.
Exactly. That's what worried me. It just is.
Yeah, and the rumour mill going around, there's so many drivers getting linked with that seat right now.
Well, yeah, I mean, I was going to discuss this at the end of the episode, but as you brought it up, we may as well talk about it, haven't we? So I've seen, genuinely today, if you've got Twitter Blue, or X Blue, or whatever you want to call it now, today's the day to be making bait tweets about driver news, to get your impressions up so you get your payout by Elon.
You should do it.
I haven't got Twitter Blue, nor do I intend to. Unless I'm getting that 5 million impressions already, I've got no intention of getting Blue. What are the rumours we've seen? Alonso. So, Aston Martin, apparently Stroll is going to sell Aston Martin
to Saudi Arabia,
probably Aramco. And then Alonso and Perez are going to swap. Can I see Checo going back? Not really, to be honest.
I could.
I think there's a sour taste in his mouth over the way his contract was negotiated.
He was treated quite badly, wasn't he?
Wins a race and gets dropped.
Well,
for Daddy's son and all this, that, and the other, despite basically keeping that team afloat for years.
Yeah.
Through his own back.
My preferred choice would be Lando Norris to get the Red Bull seat. Will happen at some point in the world, but probably not this year. Obviously, Daniel Ricciardo kicking it around and did a good weekend. Out-qualified Perez, out-raced Perez.
The likely option.
Probably, yes. Who else have we seen?
The best one I've seen so far, actually, Jamie. This doesn't quite relate to Red Bull, but it is. I genuinely saw this earlier on. Apparently, Toyota and McLaren, between them, are going to buy out Audi's Sauber deal and turn it into a Toyota Gazoo Racing McLaren weird thing with two
Kamui
Japanese drivers. To be fair, Kamui Kobayashi does manage their LMDH program. That
No, but he was
that
as a
isn't
driver,
the most
wasn't it?
ridiculous bit. No, he wasn't going to be a driver. He was going to be the
Okay.
manager. That isn't worryingly, that isn't the most ridiculous bit out of all of this. The most ridiculous bit was it was going to be two Japanese drivers with exactly 0 Formula 1 experience between them.
Nice.
And the
Bit of
last
Super
time...
Aguri.
Exactly. I was thinking that just gives off Super Aguri vibes with the Toyota name. So much going on in the rumour mill.
Yeah,
None
I saw a
of it
little Leclerc
true.
to Red Bull as well. Which,
Oh, that won't happen.
no, never.
Unless he literally wants to go there to make sure Verstappen doesn't get many pole positions.
Yeah, Hamilton's record's intact.
Exactly.
To be fair, Leclerc and Verstappen must be quite similar on the poles.
Verstappen will have more, surely.
Must be around
Verstappen's
30.
Close to 40, I would have thought.
Let's have a quick look. Verstappen is on 30 pole positions. Leclerc's on 22.
Oh, dear me.
That's insane. And then it's
we've said it
51
before,
wins to
haven't we?
4.
Oh.
All right, we
we've
should
said
get
it
back to
before,
the race,
haven't we?
probably.
Leclerc is one of the best one-lap qualifiers we've got at the moment. But
Yeah.
he's...
It's such a shame the races are more than 1 lap long.
Exactly. But I mean, yeah, to be honest, the early laps were a bit of a slow burn, weren't they? We kind of learnt that, unless you were in a Red Bull, you were really actually struggling, obviously, to get past cars down the straights. So one of the only good thing that's happened from these new regulations, of course, is how well drivers can slipstream. And obviously in Mexico, that doesn't happen. So Hamilton, it took him forever to get past Danny Rick. But it kind of all started kicking off, didn't it, by about lap 20 when Max was one of the first cars in.
Yeah, he pit from the lead of the race. There was a big train from P8, basically downwards, with Hulkenberg chilling in 8th in the tractor. And
P8, that car had a big upgrade on it.
Really, yeah, great upgrade. Really improved the face. And Verstappen saw this gap that he could get into by pitting, and he did, and came out in clear air and was down to, quite like in the top 10 somewhere. And it looked like he's going to try and do about 50 laps on a set of hards, which seemed like an awful lot. So it could have been that he switched to a 2, but straight away he was just rinsing past everyone. Like Russell was gone, Ricciardo was gone. I think he was catching the back of Lewis Hamilton before everyone pitted. And meanwhile you had a couple of drivers trying a similar thing in the midfield because Tsunoda and Norris were at the back of Hulkenberg's train and pit themselves quite early and then caught the back of the train again within about 6 laps, just at the pace of new tyres. Was crazy. So that was going to be quite interesting, seeing how that all played out with a 2-stop versus a 1-stop in the midfield. And then that was all ruined because there was a red flag mid-race, thanks to the other Haas of Kevin Magnussen having a pretty nasty crash due to a suspension failure. So, yeah, that was a shame because the race, I don't know, the strategies were bubbling away fairly nicely. You had a bit of variation there, a lot of differences of tyre choice, and obviously the red flag means everyone can change. So that's what they did. Magnussen was okay, looked quite shaken afterwards, but it was a massive left rear failure that spun him into the barriers in the middle sector. Really high speed, quite ferocious forces going on. And yeah, there was a safety car, which a few drivers pit for a free stop, but then that was obviously nullified when the red flag came out anyway.
Yeah, I mean, it was a odd little... We don't see many failures like that anymore, do we? It kind of reminds me of the 2000s.
Yeah.
The way that suspension went. But, yeah, frustrating, I'm sure, for Haas, of course, with that big upgrade that they spoke about last weekend at Kota. Still, really, haven't quite seen the full potential of that. Surprised you didn't shout at Hulkenberg, because he had a mega start, and I still don't think I've seen how. Because he made up like 5 places, didn't he, at the start of the Grand Prix?
P12 to 8.
Yeah.
And obviously one of
gained.
those was Perez.
Yeah. Still 3 places, though, gained off the start in the midfield. It's pretty good going. And it's unlike me to give Hulkenberg a shout out on
do
the
it.
show. But it did mean, of course, that pretty much near enough, like halfway exactly through the Grand Prix, wasn't it?
Yeah.
So everyone obviously was given a free stop. It was interesting, though, for a couple of drivers, of course, because for the likes of Lando Norris, he didn't have a set of hard compound tyres left to use.
Neither did Zhou Guan Yu, who was actually on the cusp of points before the red flag, but there we go.
Yeah, and Lewis Hamilton as well, rather oddly, decided to restart on mediums, didn't he? Which looked like a bit of a gamble. It is Mexico, though, so it didn't really make much difference, because Off for the second restart, Hamilton just jumped Leclerc as Max.
Really good move.
Stuff. Yeah, it was a good move. Really good move down into
There's me bigging up Hamilton. What is going on today?
It's mad today, isn't it?
Yeah, nice.
Verstappen just walked off. He won it. We don't really need to talk about that. Norris, though, had a pretty poor start, didn't he?
He did.
Kind of got a bit bogged in the midfield and then was forced to just lose place. It was like watching Bottas in Baku 2021, wasn't it?
Yeah, just dropping and dropping. So started 10th on the restart and then was 14th by the end of the first restart lap. So yeah, he got a bad launch. He almost bogged down in second gear, a bit of wheel spin, and then just drops and drops. He kept having to be really cautious. Obviously, his car is a lot faster than the cars around him, so the last thing he wants to do is he's got everything to lose in that situation. So he played it very safe, dropped to 14th after starting 17th. So had a lot to do in the second stint. And to be fair to him, probably the best stint of his career so far.
Yeah.
Up there with Russia 21 before the rain came. But
yeah.
He was dropping an absolute banger stint, overtaking absolutely everybody. Really, really good stuff.
Certainly, yeah, one of the drivers of the day, wasn't he? The only kind of other major things that happened towards the end of the race, obviously, was the two incidents between Tsunoda and Piastri, wasn't it?
Yeah, I think Tsunoda was beneficiary of the red flag quite a lot. It raised him up to 8th.
Well, he did basically done what Lando had done, hadn't he?
Yeah. So he pit very early and then was on a 2-stop, and all the 1-stoppers had pit as well. So Tsunoda had track position, but was probably going to have to pit again, or at least his pace would have dropped a lot. But then the red flag came, so he just got the track position for free. Had good pace. He was on the back of Piastri and went for a move into turn 1 and turn 2. Piastri kind of gave him the shoulder, and Tsunoda gave him a shoulder back. So that the first time round was a bit of 6 of one, half a dozen of the other. And then the very next lap, Tsunoda kind of tries the same thing. Piastri's holding his line in the middle of the track, and Tsunoda pretty much turns into him, I thought, which is very similar to what Perez did on lap 1. Just not aware of where the car was on the inside. So yeah, and that kind of, Tsunoda went off in a very similar manner to what Perez did and lost a lot of time. He was able to carry on. It was less violent than the first lap crash, but it did drop him from 8th to about 15th, and obviously flat spotted his tyres probably as well. So yeah, not the best from Tsunoda, while his teammate was chilling in 5th or 6th at that point. So bit of a shame, but I think it was kind of on him.
Yeah, no, I don't think you can blame anyone else for that one. Yeah, I mean, after that, though, Fernando Alonso gave up towards the end. Make sure he stays on 183 points again. Yep. 2 DNFs now in a row for Fernando Alonso.
Yeah,
I believe, Jamie, if I've got my stats correct, he scored more points in the opening 2 Grand Prix of the season than he scored since the summer break, and that includes a P2 in Netherlands at the Dutch Grand Prix. He scored 16 points since then.
So he scored 4 points since the summer break, apart from in Zandvoort.
No.
Oh, 16 points plus the 18.
16 points plus the 18, yeah.
Nice. That's not the best look. And yeah, it's Aston Martin have basically gone even worse than they were this time last year now.
Yeah, they've got a worse car than they did at this point last year. I don't think you can argue against that anymore. And I mean, I mentioned this last week. I think I put it out on Twitter, which weirdly I got some stick for, which I couldn't quite work out. I think it was some Aston Martin fanboys going, they tied for 6th last year in the Constructors' Championship. Obviously, they came 7th because they lost to Alfa Romeo on countback, but they were 6th. Probably could have been 5th, actually, by the end of the year. Just didn't quite, obviously, land Stroll tax.
They didn't have the drivers, yeah.
Yeah. They're going to finish 5th this year. Obviously, it's more prize money, but when it could have been, 3rd or 4th, it's a lot of lost opportunities, isn't it, again, for Aston Martin? And, let's be fair, if you're going to have a driver that's vocal about a team not delivering, it's going to be Fernando Alonso.
Indeed it is. And he's basically scored a lot of those points on his own, hasn't he?
Most of them.
Yeah, Stroll's on 53, and Alonso's on 183. What a number. Yeah, it's rough times for Aston Martin, but yeah.
Is Alonso not very good at developing a car, though? I'm going to play devil's advocate for a second.
I mean, that's just I don't know.
Don't get me wrong.
We don't
fantastic
work for the
driver.
teams. We don't
Fantastic
work for the teams.
driver. But he does often struggle to get more out of a car at the end of a season than at the start.
Potentially. I prefer not to speak. If I speak, I'm in big trouble.
All I'm saying. Stroll and Bottas had a nice crash towards the end. To be honest, it was quite nice to see, because, I mean, Stroll, that was a pretty disgusting dive bomb, wasn't it, on Bottas?
Yeah.
It is Valtteri Bottas, though, so he gave him the room, and then Bottas remembered it was Lance Stroll, so he just didn't let him get turned in on, and then took Lance out, which...
Yeah.
Did he get a penalty for that in the end?
He did. He got 5 seconds for.
I don't believe that was fair.
I don't see where Bottas else could go, really. I guess just bail out.
Well, apart from backing out, but...
Yeah.
I don't really feel like, because how badly he got dive bombed into the corner before, and a corner we never see overtakes on, I don't think that should have been a penalty for Bottas.
The last overtake I can remember at that corner was Max on Bottas, when Max got a puncture from it, didn't he?
Yes.
In 2019, when Max got pole and then told the stewards he sped under yellow flags.
Yeah, bizarre.
Yeah.
Bizarre. Do we
another thing
know
going
what
on.
happened to Logan Sargent?
I don't. Williams tweeted something. But he was
Got
running
bored?
P13, and yeah, the fireworks were obviously off because Verstappen had won the race about a minute before Sargent was coming around the final corner, and Sargent just bailed into the pits rather than take the checkered flag, and yeah, okay, so they're saying a fuel pump issue, but surely if you've done 71 laps and 12 corners, you can do 71 laps and 13 corners.
Well, I mean, he would have technically crossed the finish line anyway to get back to the pits, wouldn't he? I guess they just didn't want to do any extra lap.
Maybe.
For whatever reason. Perhaps he was going to get disqualified if he didn't have enough fuel or something like that.
Potentially. But even so, it was a bit weird. Gave Hulk another place up to P14, though, we move.
Well, I guess if he's on 1 point anyway, he can't lose to anyone, can he, in the championship now? Because the only person with no points is Nick de Vries.
Unless someone new turns up, you know.
But who's going to... Yeah,
someone gets COVID.
So I don't think that would matter anymore, would it?
No,
unless they felt really ill.
Yeah.
Very, very
another thing happened. Ocon was being the cockiest guy in the whole
Oh,
planet.
yeah!
That was so dumb. It actually made my skin crawl a little bit.
How many laps did it take him to overtake him?
He was like, won the Haas, I'm going
right?
for it. And it took him like 15 more laps or something to overtake.
Have you ever seen the meme that used to go around?
Of Deji?
No.
Oh.
Don't think so. What meme were you going to suggest?
Deji out, like, trying to prank his dad or something, holding the cream at the door.
No.
And he's like, waiting for my
quite.
dad to come home so I can slap him in the face. And it's like day 1 and then day 3,000.
No, I was thinking of the one where the guy is... Where someone obviously says, like, threatens him, and he goes, oh, shiver me timbers, I'm so scared. That was what it was like when Ocon did that.
Ocon was like,
it's just so
you won the
dumb.
Haas, I'm going for it. And then every single lap, he was within 8/10 and didn't go for it.
It was almost as bad as Daniel Ricciardo firing that gun at Tsunoda last year, and then taking him out.
Yeah.
Formula 1 drivers don't deserve to be as confident as they are, I think.
Yeah,
It
but
is the lesson we learned from
Hulkenberg, he deserved P10, but they put him on mediums for 37 laps. And
Well,
the tyre
Hamilton
wear,
and Norris did well with it.
yeah, have you seen the Haas this year? It does about 2 laps and then the tyres are done.
It does destroy tyres like
So I was
nothing
quite
else.
sad after that because he deserved a point on his 200th race, and the tyres at the end were just all over the place. That's kind of what caused Bottas and Stroll to crash because they were both trying to avoid Hulk. Yeah, it was very sad, but we take the wind tunnel time. They're P10 now. Get in.
They are, which is alarming when we talk about Haas, isn't it? Because that's been the other rumour, hasn't there, about a potential team being sold. Could Haas be that team?
Maybe. Wouldn't surprise
Could they
me.
just be sold to Andretti?
Nah, I don't think. Andretti are too far down the line now, aren't they, to overtake someone else?
Cheaper
As in
way
they're-
of doing it.
But they're already committed to getting their own factory and stuff, so it'd be quite hard to bail out of that now.
Yeah, but you don't have to pay the £650 million entry fee, do you?
Yeah, but it's already done. That's
No, it's not.
That's signed and delivered, isn't it? I thought.
No.
What was
the
the bit
teams
they
haven't
did?
agreed what that entry
it was
fee
the
is,
FAA,
yeah.
wasn't it? Yeah.
Yeah, the FIA have said, you might be able to start a Formula 1 team.
Yeah.
Very, very confusing
Very
and
odd.
convoluted. It did mean, though, Alex Albon 2 points for Williams. It's the first time in 6 years they've scored points in 3 Grand Prix in a row.
Really?
Since Felipe Massa in 2017.
Wow.
And I believe that was early in 2017
early,
as well.
Yeah, I think he scored points in his first 3 races. He was quite good. Massa back in those days. Yeah. Ricardo almost got Russell at the end, which is quite funny.
We didn't get to see it.
Who's just chilling 25 seconds off Lewis on better tyres.
Yeah,
there you
what's
go.
happened to Russell, man?
Fraud
what's happened to Russell this year? Yeah, I mean, to be fair, since the summer break, he has still scored more points than Sergio Perez. But he has also scored less points than Oscar Piastri. So, swings and roundabouts. And only 18 more than Pierre Gasly.
Gasly's been on good form recently.
Well, Gasly had a podium at the Netherlands, didn't he, as well? Which, I don't believe Russell's had a podium in the second half of this year.
He should have had at Singapore.
Should have, yes.
He did. No, he didn't at Qatar, did he? I thought he did.
Did he not?
Double McLaren, wasn't it?
Yeah. Has George Russell not scored a podium since the summer break?
I'll do some research.
I don't believe he has. Because he didn't at Japan, because that was, again, double McLaren.
His last podium and only podium of the year was in Spain.
Yeah. I was going to say, I don't think he's got another podium.
Get him out.
Wild. And people still think he's better than Lewis. Shocking. I mean, Jamie, it does lead us on to the big question, though. I have confidently said, despite Lewis getting disqualified and taking himself out in the last 2 races, that he would still beat Sergio Perez by the end of the year. The gap is 20 points now with 3 races to go.
It would be 2 if he...
It would be 2 points if he didn't get... No, I think it might be 1 point, because I believe he got fastest lap last week as well.
Yeah, he may have done it. No,
Tsunoda took it in the end anyway, didn't he? Yeah, he was going to have it before Yuki snatched it. Is Sergio Perez going to beat Lewis Hamilton at the end of the year?
I'm more leaning towards your point of view now, that he won't. That Hamilton will get it. But the thing is, it takes 1 podium, I think, from Perez. And he's probably okay.
Sensibly, yeah.
Like a podium and a P5 or something, yeah.
Yeah. But how well has Perez done in the last few Grand Prix?
Awfully. I genuinely think if Perez gets 1 podium between now and the end of the season, they'll keep him.
I think they'll have to.
If he doesn't, then I think they maybe go for Ricciardo. But he's just going to get rinsed anyway, so it's like, what does it matter? Just run 1 car.
Yeah, just clone Max Verstappen. Probably be better for him, wouldn't it? But anyway, our final, obviously, top 10 rundown. Max Verstappen takes the win ahead of Hamilton. Both Ferraris. After a front row lockout, only Ferrari could then be basically anomalous in the Grand Prix. Norris,
Leclerc pole that he didn't convert.
Yeah, that now means Max Verstappen has converted 10 of Charles Leclerc's pole positions to victories.
And Leclerc has converted 1 of his own.
Is it only 1?
No, it's 3. 3.
I was going to say, yeah. Norris, definitely driver of the day in my eyes. 5th there, beats out Russell, Ricciardo. Piastri, a bit of a shame. Had a bit of a quiet race in the end. I thought you might have a real chance to shine with Lando down the order, but Lando clearly, kicked on yesterday, Sunday, by the time the show goes out. Albon and, Esteban Ocon picks up another point as well for Alpine. Does mean, after all our talks about it last week, Alfa Romeo, mega pace this weekend. Not a single point and they lose a place in the championship. Well done, Jamie.
Without a red flag, I believe strongly that Joe would have got 9th. So,
do you?
I think he was definitely on the cusp of it. He was around in the right area.
Do you think he would have beat Lando?
No. So maybe 10th then.
Yeah, okay.
He probably would have been ahead of Ocon and that lot. But
Okay.
Yeah. But do you think they'll score a point and get back ahead of AlphaTauri? Or do you think that's it?
I think that's it. I reckon AlphaTauri... I've said this before. I think AlphaTauri are going to keep scoring points. They've looked good since Japan when that big upgrade came on. They weren't able to capitalise on it a couple of times, but, don't get me wrong, I think this will be their best result between now and the end of the season.
They'll keep chipping away with a couple of P10s.
I wouldn't be worried necessarily if I was Williams, but I would be nervous.
Well, 12 points is the gap, and Ricciardo just scored 6 in 1 race.
Like I said, though, I think this will be their best result of the year. Bearing in mind, Williams also scored 2.
AlphaTauri scored a podium in Brazil in 2019.
Yeah, after a ridiculous race.
Alfa Romeo got P4 and P5 that race as well, so maybe
Exactly. Yeah, you can keep dreaming, Jamie.
Yeah. Joe,
yeah.
We move.
I think it'll be interesting as we head into the final few Grand Prix.
I haven't made a quiz. I could make one up.
I also haven't made a quiz because I believe it was. No, it was meant to be your go today.
Was it my turn? Well,
I think it was your turn.
Someone was having Discord issues. So, yeah, someone was having Discord issues, so I just told me to make all the notes. So, there you go.
No quiz today. We will do, though, our driver of the day is Lando Norris for me, Jamie. Pretty easy.
Yes, agree.
Predictions. I was 1 point behind you coming into this weekend, wasn't I?
You were indeed. And,
I believe.
63 to 62. Actually, I don't think I updated that. No, I have. Yeah.
You did. I believe I lost points to you this weekend. I thought I was screwed with Norris after Saturday and Alonso, to be honest. And that proved to be true.
Norris-Alonso shout was a bit rogue, but we both said Max pole, which obviously didn't happen. Both said Max win, which obviously did happen.
Yeah.
So there's 2 points each there. You said Norris-Alonso, neither were on the podium. I said Hamilton, Gasly, and Hamilton was second place, so there's 2 points for me.
Gives Jamie a 3-point lead with just 3 races to go.
This is the only battle in the championship.
That's exciting.
Battle for 7th and the prediction battle.
Exactly.
So
I guess
points.
the last thing to do then, Jamie, is race rating.
Wait, what? Have I done this wrong? I was on 63. No, I'm on 67. Yeah. Okay,
You're on 67. Okay.
Race rating. I mean, it was fairly dead, wasn't it?
Yeah, for the most part. I think a 5.
I was thinking 5.
That's wonderful then. We'll agree on 5.
Yeah. It was not the best, and
it was a Mexican Grand Prix.
I'm looking
as soon
forward
as
to
Checo's
Perez
gone, that track's
retiring.
off the calendar.
It's probably one of the biggest reasons I'm looking forward to Perez retiring, just so we lose Mexico.
I mean, the crowd make up for it a bit, but yeah, it's a pretty dull race, isn't it?
Yeah.
Pretty much every year. Yeah. Have we got anything else to add, Jamie?
Let me just browse the old X and see what's going on. No, I think that's it.
Wonderful. Thank you all, as always, so much for listening. We forgot to mention it in the intro. What's that, sir? We'll be back Thursday. Yeah. Of course, if you're watching this on my main channel, there'll be a link down in the description below. Obviously, go sub to the No Wheel YouTube channel. We're up to 268 subs, Jamie. How many are you on?
Oof, that's a good question. I don't think it's changed. But
I'd be staggered if it has. But we've got to do
548. Same.
So we are 380 behind. We are getting there. Slowly but surely, we will overtake Jamie183 one day in the future. But yeah, thank you all, as always, so much for listening. If you have enjoyed, please do make sure to leave a like, drop a sub, drop a follow, all that good stuff. Those sweet, sweet interactions, as Jamie likes to call it. And we will be back, ready to discuss the final sprint race of the year for the Brazilian Grand Prix.